Snakebite season in Pietermaritzburg, and this year residents are not only dealing with increased snake activity, but also a rise in water monitor sightings. Experts say it's due to the warmer temperatures and heavy rains. Nobuhle Modise is in Hillcrest and joins us now live. Nobuhle, good to speak to you this afternoon, and I hope you're very scared of snakes because it will probably send the right message. Walk us through what's happening there this afternoon.
Yes, Hugo, I'm very scared of snakes, as you can see my posture at the moment. But yes, there has been an increase in snake sightings as well as water monitors, and those are carnivorous lizards. But we will be focusing on snakes today, and I'm at the Pezulu Safari Park, where we have been chatting to snake handlers this morning. I also managed to speak to a snake catcher in Pietermaritzburg just around these sightings and how often they get call-outs, because you would know that it is, we're still within summer, and because of these heavy rains that we've seen of late, this is why we're seeing these sightings. But let me bring into the conversation Sifiso Buthelezi, who is a snake handler here at the safari park, and he's holding one of the most commonly found snakes whenever they get call outs, because he does also go out onto the field whenever people spot snakes in their homes. And maybe let him speak to us about what kind of snakes they are finding, speak to us about this particular snake and what people essentially need to do when they spot snakes in their homes. Thank you very much, Sifiso. So maybe let's start by chatting to us about this particular creature here next to us.
All right, so with the snake that we have here today, it's known as your brown house snake. So it's a very common snake throughout the entirety of Southern Africa. But usually people without knowledge or with the fear speaking for them, they'll usually just misidentify it for a black mamba. It's also a nocturnal snake, so it usually comes out in the night time, or is found in very dark places. So usually just getting an identification underneath those circumstances or that environment, it becomes very difficult to tell what snake it is. And generally with people having fear of snakes, it doesn't help a lot in terms of them trying to get a positive identification or dealing with the snake correctly.
So this snake is not venomous, just making sure.
Yeah, I should have asked that first. But yeah, this is a non-venomous snake. It is part of your constrictors. So your constrictors are basically snakes that do not have any venom, and they rely basically on they subdue their prey basically by squeezing them until they become sort of like stop moving or die, and that's when they'll start swallowing them.
And now we know that it's snake season. It's mostly referred to as baby season. Speak to us about what this means.
So what that basically means is that this is the time when your baby snakes will start hatching out, or if your snakes give birth to live young, that is when they start giving birth. So you're going to see a lot of babies moving around looking for food, and usually happens after around about 3 days of being born. But it's also a very nice warm time, so snakes are out and about and they are looking for food, or they're looking for shelter where they can hide away from the sun, which usually sometimes will clash with where people are living. So that's why we are seeing more snakes.
Are you getting more call-outs in this season?
Yes, so during this time we do get a lot of call-outs for snakes in people's homes. We just did one this morning for the boomslang. And basically people will see a snake in the house, or they see something that looks like a snake, and we get called in. Sometimes we're even called in for animals such as frogs, just because people don't get a clear picture of what animal it is. Some people will be a toy snake, we go out and we have to remove them. So it's basically sort of like a fear that people have for snakes, and if there's too many of them at a time, we end up going through a lot of snake call-outs. With people calling, we're coming to have and to come and take a look at some of the snakes that we come across.
So speaking of fear, speak about what people need to do when they spot snakes, because you were speaking earlier to us about the fact that we see that a lot of people are killing snakes instead of calling snake handlers to be able to deal with that. I know there's a 4-year-old who passed away just in January because someone had cut a snake in half, but it managed to still, bite her, and she unfortunately passed away. So maybe speak to us about what kind of things residents need to do when they do spot snakes in their homes.
So what you would do with the snake is the same thing you'd do with an electrical problem. You do not want to deal with it in an unprofessional manner, because it does have its severe consequences at the end. So one of the best things to do is to remain calm and try to get a professional, someone who is used to working with snakes, or someone that can help in terms of removing it. If it is in the house, if it is outside, it's always good to monitor it. Usually the snake will move away. It has no interest inside of your house unless you have a nice source of food for it, which is when it will end up inside.
And then you are also against the killing of snakes. Speak to us about why people shouldn't be killing snakes when they spot them.
All right, so killing a snake is very difficult. So first of all, you are injuring the snake. Same as us humans, if you are in a threatening situation where you have to fight for life or death, you give it your all. Which means that if the snake is trying to be killed, it has the right, or it is going to try and defend itself by all means, which means that we might end up a case of you getting bitten by a snake. But also, it's also putting you in contact with the snake. And now also, if it is done incorrectly, we do have snakes that will sort of like pretend to be dead, and they'll lie basically on their backs. You think the snake is dead, you pick it up, it'll stand up and it'll start biting. And then again, if it is done incorrectly, the snake still has a chance of still inflicting a deadly bite on that person. And if you kill a snake, it's half dead. That also means that the snake, if it does bite, is going to be basically sort of like the last kick of a dying horse. It's going to give it its all, which is also a very unpleasant situation.
And then just lastly, Sfiso, before I hand back to the studio, what are the things that people should not be doing, especially when it comes to wounds?
Snake bites. So if ever you are bitten by a snake, it's also the same thing. If a person is not an electrician, do not call them for an electricity problem. You need to go to a medical facility where you can be treated. So it's not the time where you should start tying. That could actually do more harm than good. You do not need to cut or suck the venom out. So that is basically sort of like wasting time that you could be using in order to get to a hospital to receive antivenom if it is a serious bite. So medical facilities, they're all trained and equipped in order to deal with snake bites. So best thing you could do is to get to a hospital in the shortest time period that is possible.
Thank you very much. That's Sfiso Buthelezi, who is a snake handler here at the Pazulu Safari Park, speaking interestingly about what people should do when they do get bitten by a snake. And you know that currently in the province there is that controversy around a medication shortage at hospitals and clinics. So it would be interesting to know if there's enough antivenom to go around, especially because it is snake season and there is a high number of cases of people spotting snakes in their homes. But for now, let me hand back to you, Hugo.
Nobuhle, Modise, appreciate that, and I'm sure you'll be looking for a boom mic the next time you have that conversation. But glad you're safe and appreciate the information. You're watching